Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Joseph Parker, he's been in the UK for the past couple of days, and I have to say he's really been making quite a splash actually. It's been a real pleasant surprise because, as we know, and as I've touched on before in previous videos, Parker's profile is not where it should be and needs to be. So if we have a quick look at his activity in recent days, so he was ringside for Hughie Fury's exhibition fight at the Copper Box the weekend. He then had a face-off in the ring with Fury, looked pretty intense. Dillian White then got up in his grill and he was ready and willing to fight Parker should Fury pull out. He sort of said, look, I want to fight you, man. I want that belt. Let's make it happen. Subsequently, he ran into David Haye in the streets. Apparently, it was random, but you have to wonder about these things. Then he was at his gym. His promoter David Higgins and JP, they also met with boxing promoter Eddie Hearn, and I'll touch on that in a moment. So what all this exposure adds up to is much needed, you might say desperately needed exposure for Joseph Parker. So as I've touched on in previous videos, he's been starved of hype being so far away from boxing fans. He's been here in New Zealand, he's been away from most fans, so he's this guy that they see some YouTube clips on, don't really see most of his fights, and he's risen the ranks and got the title, and most people are like, well, Joseph who? They don't really know who he is. So this whistle stop tour in the UK has been great for his profile. It's been really good to see the flurry of videos, stories, social media about Joseph Parker. So he might not come across as the most charismatic guy ever, but you know what? He's really genuine. He's real. He's charming in his own unassuming way. Certainly, he's been putting his best foot forward in the past couple of days. Now, David Higgins, Parker's promoter of Duco events, he met with Eddie Hearn yesterday, Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing. He's the promoter for Tony Bellew, Dillian White, and obviously Anthony Joshua. They had a meeting, and afterwards, David Higgins talked about potential opponents next, and they were White, Bellew, and then further out, Joshua. I thought, well, that's pretty interesting that they have talked about campaigning indefinitely in the UK. But they've also talked about Deontay Wilder in the States and sort of talked about both markets. But it's the clearest signal yet that the UK looks like it's where it's at. So Hearn, he actually said Parker gets past Fury, he should stay in the UK. So in relation to Joshua, he said, we want Parker spring, summer of next year. Try add another belt to the bow. He went on to add, and this is a quote, knock off all the guys who would make my profile so significant that the Anthony Joshua fight becomes a huge UK and worldwide fight, and certainly victories over Hughie Fury, Tony Bellew, and Dillian White would put Joseph in a brilliant position to earn a lot of money in the Anthony Joshua fight, and put him in a position where that fight is a necessity rather than a potential fight. Later, he went on to add that he wants to make sure that the next fight for Parker, should he get past Fury, is against one of his fighters. Higgins, he went on to add that Hearn had committed to writing to Duco events this week with solid offers. So you can only assume that given the conversation, what they've said, that would either be against Dillian White or Tony Bellew. So that's some pretty interesting stuff right there. Clearer signals yet from David Higgins that they're going to stay in the UK, and from Hearn that he's willing to dangle the carrot of Anthony Joshua, but only if he can get past some of his other fighters. And given Eddie Hearn's position in world boxing at the moment, actually it was Joseph Parker's coach, Kevin Barry, in a video post the meeting, he said Hearn is the biggest power broker in boxing today. He is not wrong. All the Matchroom fighters, Matchroom being Hearn and his father's business, I think it's darts, boxing, and something else. But in the boxing terms, Hearn is where the money is at. He brings all the money to the table. And he's right. If Parker can get past Bellew, if he can get past White, obviously if he gets past Fury first, then the Joshua fight is something that's actually real and could be something that could happen. It's not going to happen now. We know Joshua's got a potential rematch against Klitschko, and he's got his mandatory obligations against Pulev, and then potentially Ortiz. But he did say that he was open to the fight happening in the next, was it spring or summer of next year? So we'll have to see how things shake down. Obviously, a lot of that is dependent on Parker winning and winning well. Blitz Fury in September, and then obviously take on one of Matchroom's other fighters, Dillian Whyte or Tony Bellew. I guess the question then becomes, we've heard a lot about Deontay Wilder and Joseph Parker. Parker turned up to his fight in February in Alabama, and he was pictures afterwards. They've both spoken about wanting to fight each other, unify. You have to say that this is the biggest indication yet that Joseph Parker is going to, and I hate to say it, he's going to duck Deontay Wilder. But his promoters are going to do what they think is best for him. They're going to put him in a position to earn the most money and do the best what they think is for his career. So we'll have to see where this goes, but I would have to say Deontay Wilder's chances of a Joseph Parker fight seem to be getting slimmer by the day. Remember, Wilder probably doesn't bring as much to the table at the moment because of his profile, not a massive star. I mean, you could argue that because boxing is popping in the UK, that the Dillian Whyte fight or the Tony Bellew fight would generate far in excess of what a Deontay Wilder fight would bring. I think it's pretty clear that if he wants to go the money route, then he will stay in the UK. And it sounds like his advisors, Duke Vince, David Higgins, that they're going to go that route. So we'll have to see where things go to from here. But very interesting, and full credit to Joseph and his team for all the exposure that they've been getting this week. I know I've knocked them in recent videos for saying that they haven't been doing enough, but actually this whistle stop tour has been great for Joseph Parker. Okay, that's it from me. Hit like and subscribe. I'm out.